In one interview, the vice president said Iran could access $300 billion. Hours later, on a different network, he said they wouldn't be getting a dime. Then the president called the whole story fake news and got the number wrong by a factor of 1,000. This is what actually happened and why the contradictions matter. On June 14, 2026, a Memorandum of Understanding was signed electronically between the United States and Iran. It ended a war that began with airstrikes in February. It promised at least $300 billion for Iranian reconstruction. And within 24 hours, the Vice President of the United States gave two completely different answers about who was paying for it. To understand the money, you have to understand the war. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched Operation Epic Fury, a surprise air campaign against Iran. Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei was killed in the opening strikes. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, was selected to replace him. On April 13th, a U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports took effect under CENTCOM command, led by Admiral Brad Cooper. Earlier talks in Islamabad the same month had failed. Then on June 14th, Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif announced a breakthrough. President Trump confirmed it, declaring the Strait of Hormuz reopened and the blockade lifted. The same day, President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalib digitally signed a 14-point framework agreement, the Islamabad Memorandum. A formal signing was scheduled for June 19th in Switzerland. At the center of the framework, a Reconstruction and Development Fund. On June 17th, a senior U.S. administration official read the official MOU text aloud to the press. The text commits the United States, quote, with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran. The MOU also requires the United States to grant, quote, all required licenses, waivers, and permissions for those financial transactions. How did $300 billion become the number? According to context surrounding the negotiations, Iran originally sought $400 billion in war damage compensation. Washington rejected that. The Reconstruction and Development Fund emerged as a compromise. On June 16th, Reuters published a dispatch from Dubai. Reporters Andrew Mills, Maha El Dahan, and Pariza Hafezi, cited an anonymous source with direct knowledge, described the fund as a private investment vehicle, not a government grant. They reported more than half of that $300 billion was already committed. And the list of investors, according to that source, included companies from South Korea, Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, the Gulf, and the United States. On June 15th, Vice President J.D. Vance sat down with CBS Mornings correspondent Ed O'Keefe. O'Keefe asked directly whether Iran would have access to a $300 billion reconstruction fund. Vance's answer? Iran could have access to the fund, described as funded by, quote, the Gulf Coast Coalition, if Iran honored its obligations. The same day, Vance appeared on Fox News with Sean Hannity. Hannity asked whether the United States had signed off on Qatar paying Iran $300 billion. This time, Vance said, quote, the agreement says they are not getting a single dime of American money. Other countries, he explained, not the U.S., would be invited to invest in Iran. 2 interviews, the same day, 2 different framings. Then President Trump weighed in. On Truth Social, he called reports that the U.S. was paying Iran, and this is his number, $300 million, quote, fake news. He missed the actual figure by a factor of 1,000. The next day, June 16th, at the G Summit in France, Trump told reporters, we're not investing any money, but the Reuters reporting, published that same day, said American companies were already among the committed investors. Now we get to what people are speculating, and we want to be clear, this is the speculation chapter. First theory, that the administration's repeated no American money framing is a semantic dodge. Because if US-based private companies are listed among investors, as Reuters source claims, then American capital is flowing to Iran. It's just not flowing from the Treasury. And the MOU itself requires Washington to issue the licenses and waivers that make those transactions legal. Second theory, that Vance's pivot from could have access on CBS to not a single dime on Hannity happened within hours because of political backlash. The shift, observers note, tracked with MAGA-aligned criticism of the reported fund. Third theory, that Trump's Truth Social post disclaiming $300 million, while Vance was on national television acknowledging $300 billion, points to internal administration disarray rather than a coordinated message. And then there's some allegations that we couldn't verify. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and state-affiliated Mer News have claimed that Iran will receive $24 billion in frozen funds during the 60-day final negotiation window. Vance flatly denied it on CBS, saying, quote, "There's nothing about $24 billion. Mohsen Rezai, a military advisor to Iran's supreme leader and former IRGC commander, has claimed Trump privately accepted the $24 billion release, but is unwilling to make that decision public. The U.S. has not confirmed this. And Reuters, citing 4 sources, has reported the UAE already delivered roughly $3 billion to Iran. The UAE Foreign Ministry called that allegation, quote, "entirely false and unfounded." Here's what we could not find. No Treasury or SEC filing referencing U.S. corporate commitments. No public disclosure of the fund's administrator or governance. No comprehensive list of committed companies. Reuters source declined to provide one. And no reconciliation from the White House of how no American money squares with the MOU clause obligating the U.S. to license the transactions. The formal signing is scheduled for June 19th in Switzerland. What gets signed there and what the final deal actually says about who pays remains the $300 billion question. If you want more investigations like this one, subscribe and tell us in the comments which contradiction you would like us to dig into next.